There's a big difference of before the arrest versus after the arrest. I guess that seems to be the number one differentiator on what you should do.
Yes, I tell clients that in essence, excuse me, vehicle request, that pretty much anything else that the officer asks them to answer, do, or blow into before an arrest, that they should decline to do anything.
Okay. All right. Um, this may be a tough question to answer. It's wide ranging, but what kinds of help can you provide as an attorney to people, you know, accused of DUI? In terms of the fines they have to pay, ignition interlocks, time in court. If their license will be suspended, jail time, those kinds of things.
Well, in a drunk driving case, and in Michigan it's called operating while intoxicated, or OWI,
Okay.
it is very important that you contact an attorney as soon as possible. Some people are given the opportunity by police officers to make a phone call when they're trying to decide whether or not to take a breath or a blood test. And if you're allowed to do that and you get a hold of an attorney, you should tell the attorney, I'm digressing briefly, but it won't be for long.
It's okay.
But you should tell the attorney that I'm in a police station, I have a police officer sitting next to me, I've been asked to take a breath or blood test, and I need some legal advice. Now, please ask me questions I can answer yes or no. And the attorney should then, of course, be able to ask questions such as, have you been arrested for drunk driving? Yes. Have you been drinking alcohol tonight? Yes. Have you had any illegal drugs? No, etc.
Okay.
And give them some advice. More generally, and probably a little more responsibly to your question, it's important, as I was saying, that somebody charged with an OWI contact and ideally retain an attorney to represent their interests as soon as possible. First
Right.
of all, Michigan, if you, again, refuse an officer's post-arrest request for a chemical test, you will be suspended, and you have 14 days to get a written request for a hearing to the Secretary of State. If you don't make that deadline and don't request it in the proper manner, you will frequently, if not always, be suspended for a minimum of 1 year. So it's that you contact an attorney immediately. Also, if somebody is my client, we proceed along two parallel tracks. One is, if you will, a defense on the merits, the charge. Second parallel path is to have the client prepared to, if need be, stand in front of the judge at a sentencing hearing.
Right.
In that regard, typically with drunk driving cases, substance abuse assessments will often be obtained by the client, and other work related to alcohol will be engaged in by the client under our oversight, which helps the client be better prepared to appear before a judge should that have to happen.
Okay.
Also, there are different charges: operating while intoxicated, operating while visibly impaired, other non-drunk driving charges that have different fines and costs, that have, of course, different penalties, including different maximums of jail time and what have you. And an attorney's involvement, especially the involvement of our firm, can help minimize many of those potential damages for someone.
Okay. Are you able to say, in general, what level of success you've had in reducing some or all of the myriad issues that can happen to someone when they're being prosecuted for OVI or OWI or some combination of those?
we can typically, in nearly all cases, mitigate at least some damage, and oftentimes we can uh, mitigate most of the damage. But it's always good to retain counsel in a drunk driving case, and experienced counsel uh,
Okay.
obviously would be the most helpful to a person.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, what have you learned about people's behavior and their reaction to being arrested and prosecuted for DUI? Like what human insights have you gained into the whole process? Based on these hundreds of clients that you've seen.
Geez, I've gotten a lot of different insights. One I've alluded to earlier, which is with a smaller group of repeat offenders, uh, I've found it somewhat surprising that people will continue to drink and drive after they've suffered the consequences of a drunk driving conviction.
Hmm.
On the other hand, I suppose generally, the more experience we all get in life, the less we're surprised by things. And I've also come to appreciate the judicial system. It is a system that, as you're aware, takes place over a period of time.
Right.
And just the time involved in the judicial process allows for people to think about what they did or didn't do, come to terms with it more
Right.
over a period of time. I've also seen how in Michigan the judicial system, with extremely rare exception, is a very dignified process, and while punishments are meted out when somebody is convicted
Hmm.
within the limits of the law, it's a process that attempts to take into account everybody's dignity, including the accused.
Well, that's good. Okay. Okay. Um, okay. And is there from the people that are first time offenders? Is there a particular story that you hear over and over and over? Like, I don't know how this happened, or I only had two drinks. I mean, is there? Do you keep hearing the same thing over the years?
Well, I think for a typical first time offender, the story I hear over and over is, in essence, boils down to I had one or two drinks too many, and the end result was my usual good judgment left me, and I got behind the wheel thinking I was fine to drive.
Okay.
That's the usual story of a first time offender.
Hmm.
And I found that it's typically appears to be true.
Okay. Okay. And do you feel the? I mean, you probably don't, but do you feel the current punishments in Michigan for an OWI and OVI are too harsh, or are they too lax, and why?
Well, I don't know that my personal opinion. Um, I think in in our society in general, and certainly in the state of Michigan,
Hmm.
as any other state, it's the legislature that fixes their penalties, and they're all responsive to presumably their constituents, which include myself and all the other lawyers at this firm and police officers and everybody else. So
Okay.
um, I think possibly when I was younger, when I had less experience as an attorney, uh, I was bothered more about some aspects of the penalties meted out. But I think at this point, while not uh, supporting or opposing any of the penalties in particular, I think whatever the legislature chooses to do, presumably it has the backing of the citizens.
Okay.
To
Fair
your
enough.
question,
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. What do you see as the future of the the OWI punishments and the number of offenders? Do you see it getting more harsh? Who knows?
it will definitely continue to get more harsh. I believe it has for 25 years. I do believe that more efforts are being made at treatment, and you see more sobriety courts where the effort is to get people into treatment immediately. Something like a sobriety court also has the effect many times of getting the cases off an active trial docket. So
Okay.
um, I have mixed feelings about sobriety courts, but I certainly agree with the philosophy they espouse, which is if somebody has an alcohol problem, they should get treatment of some kind immediately.
Right.
At Kronzek and Cronkright, we are a firm specifically of trial attorneys, and we try our best to assist our clients in both ways. If they need assistance with any issues related to substance abuse, we help them out in that manner, and we also are willing to and do try cases.
Okay. And yeah, my last question is, what makes your firm unique in providing OWI defense, and what statement do you want to make to potential clients that will be watching this video?
Well, Kronzek and Cronkright, as I've just indicated, is a firm of trial attorneys. We are aggressive in the defense of our clients. Our clients' well-being is our number one consideration.
Okay.
In these types of offenses, that would be drinking and drug driving offenses, at least some people arrested for these types of charges do have issues related to if somebody has those types of problems, who is one of our clients, we assist them in getting any help that they need while at the same time aggressively defending their case. Right. We'll try a drunk driving case, and many times prosecutors aren't used to defense counsel being willing to try these types of cases.
Okay. Huh. Well, very good. Yeah, I appreciate your time and all your answers. It was interesting. As usual, I always learn new things in these interviews.